Hi guys, welcome to today's virtual podcast, the first one I've ever done. I am joined rather by Sam Tai. I'll let him tell you a little bit about himself in a moment. So obviously we're still in the time of coronavirus currently, so we're having to do this with ultimate social distancing. What are we, like 70, 80 miles apart?
I think it's like 80 miles, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about who you are, what it is that you do, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, nice to meet everyone. So my name is Sam and I actually am a functional movement consultant or coach. I work a lot with the mind and the body in terms of linking the two together really to create the best version of functional fitness for people. And I also work with Hot Pod Yoga as a yoga teacher for them. I'm actually repping their branded t-shirt today. So yeah, that's a little bit about me really. I've been in the sort of industry now for about 3 years, building up my own business, which is called Move. And I absolutely love what I do, just helping people really and getting to play with the mind and the body and the physical attributes. So that's a little bit about me.
Nice. And when you talk about, so one of the things that you mentioned at the start there was functional fitness. What does, for those who don't know or have never even come across that term before, it's certainly more new to me. What does that even mean? Yeah,
so functional fitness is a very kind of modern way of looking at fitness. We go back to the time of when people thought, what does it take to be fit and healthy? And everyone thought you have to be going to a gym or having to be strong or, you know, really able to run really far distances. So a functional fitness athlete to me is something that is an everyday fitness. So walking up the stairs, carrying bags of shopping, not using escalators when you go out to public places. Those are the things that will make someone functionally fit. So things you can fit into an everyday lifestyle really. So you won't have to go and bench press at a gym to be a functional fitness athlete, or you won't have to be the strongest person at a squat or a deadlift, which are all your sort of conventional heavy lifting styles or exercises, and they're great. But to be functionally fit is just to be healthy from the inside out really.
Interesting. So essentially it's kind of finding little shortcuts in your life that you realize, okay, I've been a bit lazy with this or that, and it's a way to kind of incorporate a more physical fitness in, well, I guess mental as well, but more physical fitness into your everyday life through the things you would normally do, like you say, taking the stairs rather than the escalator and things like that.
Yeah, I always like to think of it as like if you were dropped into like the Hunger Games, for example, and they said, right, you have nothing else to survive, you've got to go get food, or, you know, dropped into a desert, would you be able to walk and get food? Would you be able to walk 10 miles? Would you be able to climb mountains, climb hills? So it's all about being being able to adapt and overcome to any scenario that you might face really, rather than just saying, yeah, that's great, I'm really good on a rowing machine. Yeah, but can you actually row in person? So it's a very different sort of style of training.
This is quite good actually, because I think about people like me and perhaps other like young dads and things like that who've probably got a little bit out of shape like myself, and I think, well, that's actually quite useful because we get to a point where we're like, oh, we want to play with our kids, or you know, and we want to maintain like health for when they get older, and we want to play around with them and things like that. And I think that sounds really practical because that's the kind of, I was thinking about this morning, like Alex, my oldest son, asked me to go and play Lego with him. And so like I'm in his bedroom, like the Legos all over the floor. And I was just sat down, cross-legged.
Yep.
But it's something that I don't do very often. And so after like 10 or 15 minutes, you know, like you started to notice that like little bit of hip pain,
sure.
Like you lose a bit of circulation or whatever. And it's those kind of things you think like, oh God, yeah, like it's just something I don't, like when you're at school, you used to sit on the floor all the time, like for assembly and so, but you don't do it as an adult.
Yeah,
so these
absolutely.
are kind of things I think, oh, it'd be kind of useful.
Well, especially like sitting on the floor is a great example really. So I like to tell people about hip mobility and also flexibility a lot. And we say, when you look at a baby, you know, they're able to just put their foot in their mouth or like scratch their own head with their foot. They have incredible hip mobility. Crazy. And then as we sort of get older and grow up, we start to lose that really quick. We still have it when we're sort of about 7, 8, 9, 10, it's still there. And then, like you said, you get into secondary school and all automatically they put you onto tables and chairs. So they get rid of sitting on the floor. And then for the next sort of 6 years of your life, you're sat at a desk writing like this, and you've lost all sense of mobility in your back and your spine and your neck and your hips and your legs. So when we come to being an adult in our adult life, then we go to sit in an office job where we're sat like this again. And it just continues, and you've got another 5 years of being sat like that. So when it comes to, you know, being a parent and having that mobility, you're trying to almost contest your mobility against a child's, which we've lost because we don't practice this stuff enough.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Like, again, I find like lots of comparisons with like me and my boys because
Yeah.
yeah, just because of the age difference and the way that, so like, for instance, like my Sol, who's 2 going on 3, if I ask him to pick something up off the floor, like he'll kind of squat down into like a low squat and pick it up. Whereas if you ask me and probably most other adults to pick something up, they bend over with their back,
Yes.
pick it up. And then, so it's like, it's just a really, and I guess maybe our upper body flexibility is probably maybe sometimes not as bad as our lower body. Like you say, all these hips, the legs, like the ankles and stuff like that. I've definitely seen people, like myself included, who struggle to do any kind of a half decent squat because of the ankle flexibility, you know. So it's crazy, like just what we lose, and it's so true. If you lose, if you don't, what is it? If you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah, if you don't use it, it's gone, it's lost. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
a great thing is you're
It's
talking
so
about ankle range there. And like when you go into a conventional gym, you see a lot of people having to squat. They want to do squats because it's a great lower body exercise. It's great for your core. It's great for your, you know, a lot of all of your body really. But when they squat, they have to squat with some like weighted plates under their feet. It's under their ankles sometimes. So that raises their...
That's how I started.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how you started. Exactly. So a lot of people start with that method because they don't have that ankle range anymore. So their Achilles is just basically tightened up, so they can't flex their foot as much as you should be able to. But you compare it to a kid and they can just drop right down as if it's nothing.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So how did all of this start for you? I mean, obviously you've been doing it for some time. It's kind of a way of life for you, and I guess we'll come on to this in a moment, but I guess the old kind of thing is for people who are new to fitness or not yet converted to the benefits of fitness, they go, oh, it's all right for you because you've been, you know all this stuff and you've been doing it for some time. But again, coming back, how did all of this journey sort of start for you? Where did that come from? Yeah,
I mean, the first thing I want to say is I hear the comment a lot of, oh, it's easy for you because you've done this. And that is such a common sentence that you hear. Anything that you're good at, I know you do a lot of filming and photography, and they'll go, oh, it's easy because you've had this person show you, or it's easy because you had YouTube to show you. I didn't have YouTube when I was around. So you hear this a lot, and that's something I really love sort of challenging in a sense. It's not been an easy journey. This fitness and health is something that I have been born into, frankly, from my family and the roots that they came from. And it's something I've worked at every single day for 21 years. You know, my life has just been this whole journey about fitness and wealth and challenges and struggles. So sort of throwing it back to 21 years ago, my dad was a personal trainer in the army. So when we were born into life, I was rock climbing from the ages of like 2. I was bouldering in a rucksack that my dad would carry me on. So we started our fitness journey then, you know, and it would be a case of I started playing rugby at 4 years old or 3 or 4 years old. My brother did as well at the same time. I have an older brother who's also now a CrossFit athlete and runs a social media page, which is incredible. So we have always been involved with fitness, and it's never been an easy journey because anyone who's involved in fitness at that high of a level, there are injuries that happen. So like we have definitely had our bumps and our hurdles, but we've just kept working at it and kept plugging it away. So I started my main sport, which is my background of sports really, is traditional karate and kickboxing. So I started those at 6 years old and competed all the way until I was about 17. So when people say, oh, well, it's easy for you, it's like, well, yeah, because I was in a gym like 6 days a week in a karate gym, working 4 hours a day from the age of 6. Yeah. You know, like how many hours have I put into that sport? How many miles have I traveled to go to that sport? You know, I would have to travel 3 hours a day to get to training. When you put it down on paper like that, nothing's ever easy. It's just how much you do in preparation to get there.
So what would you say to those people who go like, I would be included in this. Like I didn't grow up with a family that were into fitness at all. Like I wasn't encouraged to do any exercise or whatever. Like how would you encourage those people to get started? Because I guess one of the things is when you're where you're at now, you know, at least your hope would be, okay, there's that, I don't know, have you ever seen the video of the guy, his clients, I don't know if his clients challenged him or if he really wanted to do it. He basically was a personal trainer. He got himself fat and then went back again, lost all the weight again. So he sits around, he's eating McDonald's like every day for every meal. And he gets to a point, and obviously at first he's like, oh, I hate this. And he gets to a point where he's like, you know what, I could like see how it's really easy to live more of a kind of slobbish lifestyle, just eat fast food and just get out of shape. And then eventually he he gets all the weight off again and builds it all back up again.
Yeah.
And obviously, I guess that's the thing that when you've been exercising for some time, you are able to do. How would you encourage people maybe to get started for their first time even on their fitness journey? What would you say?
Yeah, I would definitely say, and sort of just jumping back to that point that you just covered, it's always easier for someone who's done sports to get back in shape. You have that muscle memory. You have that ability of that fast twitch muscles just to, cut off that fat percentage. You're used to the workouts. You know the perfect technique. So with people like that, not that I'm disregarding the fact that they got unhealthy and then became healthy again, because either way, that's still a great transition. However, it would have been much easier for them compared to someone who's never stepped into a gym, compared to someone who's never done fitness before. So for those people who've never really done fitness or even understood it or even where to go, you've just got to start with the small things. You've got to start with things you enjoy, and you've got to start with the small things. So as you go, going back to my background, the reason why I played rugby for so many years is because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the team aspect of it, and you don't realize how fit you get running around a field for 2 hours chasing an egg-shaped ball, just because you're loving it and you have that passion for it. So I'd say find your passion, whatever it is. If it's rock climbing, if it's swimming, if you like running or walking, you could say, oh, I love walking, but I'm really unfit and I can only walk 10 minutes a day. Okay, start with 10 minutes a day. In 2 years' time, you could be walking up mountains, you could be walking up hills and doing the Yorkshire Three Peaks and stuff like that because you enjoy walking. So I would always say find your passion.
That's what lockdown seems to have been quite good for, actually.
Oh, hugely.
I just see so many people getting out and walking.
Yeah.
Even if they're not into like a big major sport that they play 5 times a week, at least every day after dinner, they're getting out and walking for half an hour or whatever.
Yeah, there is a very big diversity in sports and fitness, which is why I love it so much. And you can do any sport or any fitness and be great at it or enjoy it just as much. You don't have to say, oh, I'm going to go and compete in kickboxing for 10 years and that means I'll finally be fit. No, there are people who are walkers who are fitter than me at walking. Like, it's not really a competition. It's just finding what you love and what you enjoy the most.
I think that's so important because when I think back, again, I think I can only talk from my personal experience, but thinking back to when I've been most fit or most engaged in exercise and fitness has always been through a sport. Yeah. And for me, it was like similar to you, not so early, but rock climbing. I used to love that. Mountain biking was the same. I do some now, but I used to do probably a lot more when I was younger. Yeah. And racket sports, tennis and badminton, I used to love. And I think that's the kind of thing, you forget that you're even exercising. And lots of my friends who play, I don't really play football, but lots of my friends who play football, they're like, oh, we play football like 3 to 5 times a week, but they don't really consider it, oh, I'm working out or it's fitness. They just love it. And the byproduct is they stay super healthy. Mm-hmm. So I guess my next question is, do you think that sometimes we've traded in fitness that we enjoy, either like more functional fitness like you were talking about earlier, just building it into your daily life, or a sport-based fitness for this kind of gym culture? Because there does seem to be a lot more of that now, doesn't there, in terms of, you pay your £50 a month and you go and do your squats for 45 minutes and lift some weights, and then you come home and you kind of consider your fitness done for the day. Yeah, no, hugely. I think a big fault of that is society, TV, adverts, magazines. I'm not saying those things are wrong and they shouldn't exist, but they do have an effect on how we work out now. You will have seen, if you go into Tesco's or something, there will be a men's fitness magazine. And on the front of that men's fitness magazine, there'll be someone who's in really good shape saying, you need to do these 3 gym exercises to get killer abs. And that's so destructive for what health is. I don't need to go into a gym and train on an ab machine to have good abs. Because we know that abs is just, that abdominal wall that's built up and a lack of body fat. If you have those sort of 2 things up and there's abdominal strength, you're going to have abs. No question about it. So you could be running loads and climbing trees and moving your core, engaging your muscles, and you're going to have good abs. You don't need to go into that gym and work on that ab machine. So I think it's sort of society's fault that said you need to pay your £50 a month and go get your gym membership and you will be in shape if you do these exercises on these machines. It's become very sort of sheep-like in a sense that, oh, I'm going to follow what he does, and then that person's going to follow what I do, and then that person's going to follow what they do, just because we got told from someone who maybe doesn't even do it. So do you think maybe in general, and maybe this applies generally as well, obviously our societies now is quite materialistic. We're bombarded to buy things, and it's always about adding things rather than
Yes.
refining and cutting back. So do you think maybe fitness has been part of that kind of epidemic as well, in terms of, buy the magazines, buy the supplements, buy all the personal training sessions you can, and rather than cutting back on controlling your diet a little bit more and just trying to live generally a fitter life throughout the day, go and hammer it at the gym for 2 hours and pay an arm and a leg to do it, kind of thing.
I would 100% agree with that. And I think there's what's the phrase I'm looking for? People have a lack of patience these days and won't say, yeah, if I'm just going to be healthy every single day, I'll probably look great and be healthy and I'll have that confidence. I think a big part of it is to do with social media and the negativity that can sometimes be portrayed on that. I think there's a huge amount of things that you would have remembered. They're not as popular now, but 5 years ago, TV adverts. How often would you see something that you could buy off the TV, whether it's a pull-up bar, something for press-ups, where you don't really need those, but because the world's moving in such a materialistic, fast way, we as people are engaged to say, oh, I need that so I can do better press-ups. It's like someone who's good at press-ups can do press-ups on any surface. They could, you could say, right, go and do them on that wall, and then find a way to do press-ups like this on a wall. Someone who's good at press-ups doesn't have to have these perfect things that rotate your pecs in a certain manner to create the best chest formation. They're just going to do it. So I think a huge amount of that is forced because of society.
It's so interesting, isn't it? I think about, like when you see some of these, whether it's CrossFit Games or whether it's like World's Strongest Man or whatever, and they don't always, they can do some form of preparation, but they don't always know what they're necessarily walking into. And again, if they're lifting like a massive Atlas stone, or if they're having to do like, like a 10K run, and then they're like, oh, it's over. And then suddenly you've got to do like whatever on the row machine and run through all this stuff. Yeah. It's amazing that you can just you can just prepare your body for anything. And actually that you can just use your own body weight to use as a resistance against you. And I think maybe we do overcomplicate these things too much sometimes, to the point where there's a lot of confusion, isn't there, out there? I think,
Yes.
I've certainly experienced it, which is the right, workout plan, or is that, and then, which is the right diet plan, and then, what resistance should I be using for this, and am I doing the right range of motion, and then you get to the point where you end up not doing anything. It's like a decision fatigue. You just kind of go, oh, I can't decide, so I hang it up,
Sure.
I think that's quite common, but that doesn't just apply to fitness. That's loads of stuff.
No, that's absolutely right. The like decision fatigue, I like that sort of saying, really. And I think there isn't a correct diet, or there isn't a correct way of working out. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I enjoy the sport, but I think that CrossFit athletes are a great example of being able to just adapt and overcome and do anything. You look at the top CrossFit athletes in the world currently on the men's side of things, who is Matt Fraser, and he can just adapt. You put him in a scenario, even if he's bad at it, well, he won't be bad at it because he just trains so many different styles of training. Would he do as well against Michael Phelps at swimming? No, because Michael Phelps is a swimmer. But if you put them into, a multi-event for functional fitness, saying, hey, Matt Fraser, go climb this hill, he'd be fine at it. So it's all about that diversity, for example. And I really like the idea of saying, people often have to stick to a diet, or they want to Google the keto diet or intermittent fasting, or they want to be on the 5-fruit diet or the army diet or something like this. And why do you have to? If you want to be fit and healthy, just find what you enjoy, eat relatively well, watch, have an idea about what you're eating and what you're putting into your body. That things that are generally green are good for you. If you're drinking a lot of water, it's good for you. So don't be too obsessive about those diets and the workout plan. Just keep moving and keep putting good things into your body, and it'll probably pay off well.
What as someone who's obviously followed fitness throughout your life and also trained people and had clients and things like that, what have you found? Obviously, we know the kind of physical benefits of training are obvious in terms of greater health for your organs, your muscles, greater flexibility. Moving more onto the kind of mental side now, what have you found personally for you and for some of your clients as well have been really big positives of exercise and of functional fitness?
Yeah, I think functional fitness, or just exercise in general, is a great thing for the mentality side of things. For your mind, exercise is one of the best things that you can do. We all know it releases in positive endorphins, which is a chemical in your body that releases good energy. So that's automatically one thing. From exercising, from moving your body, you are releasing good energy. It's as simple as that. You're going to feel better. However, you could also break it down into saying, if you have anger problems, for example, you see a lot of fantastic, I'm not calling out any sports or saying anything about it, but you see a lot of fantastic boxers or martial artists or kickboxers who may have had anger problems in the past. And because of that, they've able to go into a controlled environment with disciplined rules, disciplined referees, and being able to take out a form of aggression through either, for example, in boxing, it could be punching, or in weightlifting, it could be that they're getting that out through lifting something heavy, where they have to force their body into doing something that's naturally uncomfortable. If you are depressed and want something to take your mind away from things, there is nothing. I can tell you from personal experience and from being in that category once, that there is nothing better than your body almost going into survival mode because you are so lacking in energy, and you're so fatigued, and your breathing increases, and you're sat on the floor, or I've done some disgusting workouts in my time where I've just said, right, I need to go and just punish myself, and because I've been depressed at that time period, for example, I've gone into the gym or lifted heavy weights, or even just done press-ups on the floor and just repped out as many as I could do. You quickly forget about the things that you were worrying about because your body is in such agony. And even though that might be a short-term patch, if you keep doing that over and over again, you will slowly and surely think, right, if I do fitness, my mindset might be healthier. So you start to weigh up those balances, really.
You touched a little bit about what you were saying then on sort of giving out sort of good energy, and obviously at the start of this you were talking about your involvement in yoga as well, and I think those things go really well together. Talk a little bit about kind of your view on maybe some kind of alternative practices, some medicines, kind of healing and things like that, because obviously we in the West come from one particular mindset that we've got and again at the moment with the epidemic that's happening, we see there's a very kind of certain way that Western medicine looks upon things like that. What are kind of some of your experiences with energy, with healing, when you've with recovery and things like that, when you have had either illnesses or injuries in the gym and things like that?
I truly believe, and this is my personal opinion, it doesn't have to be everyone's, I truly believe that alternative medicine is the way forward for better health. So I'm going to sort of phrase that as simply as I can, and I'll break it down. I think that medicine given by a doctor or given by bought over the pharmacy is so generic for everyone. Like we both know that you and I could walk into the exact same shop and buy antihistamines or buy paracetamol or buy ibuprofen. So how are they meant to benefit us in the exact same way if mine and your body chemicals are just completely different? It makes no sense. So my sort of mindset for this, and it has been for a long time through my life experience, has been, well, why am I taking medicine that someone's giving to everyone? If someone was to say to me, hey, I'm going to test your DNA and test the chemical imbalances in your body and create this drug for you that's going to, stop you sneezing because of hay fever, then I might be a bit more open to it. But if they go, hey, this will fix every problem that you have, and it will also fix their problem, and they're you two are nothing alike, well, why should I believe that, almost, So do I think that there is an alternative method for overcoming illness? Yes. Do I think it's easy to achieve or to practice or to incorporate into your life? Absolutely not. I think it takes years of hard work and years of dedication and skill and practice and belief as well to achieve that. One of the great inspirational people to me in my life is a man called Wim Hof, and I don't know if you've ever heard of him or his practices, but he is an incredible human being that he is being able to overcome some almost impossible things that you wouldn't think humanly possible because of his breathing techniques, because of his mindset, his beliefs. And I think, well, if that's possible for one person, why shouldn't it be possible for every single one of us?
It's really interesting when you speak about guys like him, because I think that he's got a range of different examples to kind of demonstrate some of his practices.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't know tons about the guy. I've read some of his work and seen some of his stuff, but from what he's done, it seems like anybody can kind of incorporate. You don't have to kind of submerge yourself in an ice cold lake for 3 hours to kind of understand it. Again, whether it's through the breathing technique. So if anyone's not heard of him, definitely 100% look him up.
Absolutely.
And I saw one thing that he'd done where he was doing he'd got like a workshop on, and he was doing some of these breathing techniques. And again, this is not really anything about, because he's known as like the Iceman, isn't he? That's his name.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to do with that. He just does some breathing techniques, and everybody's lying on the floor, and people are crying. It's like that, and laughing and letting out emotion, and it's like, if you could put like a emotional camera or something there, you would almost see like people releasing something.
Absolutely. Emotional release.
And I thought that was an incredible experience to witness, right? Because it's like something that's very difficult to explain, but again, definitely doesn't come from a Western medicine point of view. But there's definitely an experience there that is affecting people.
Yeah.
And that people find kind of cathartic or therapeutic.
Yeah, absolutely. So a Western sort of approach to things and this will become from a materialistic, fast-paced life that we live in these Western countries, is to almost just slap a plaster on something. If you've got a cut on your arm, in a metaphorical term, if you've got a cut on your arm, in some countries, like for example the China or where Wim Hof's from, in those sort of countries, they might say, right, well, let's work on this and stitch it and let it heal naturally and use this because it's good for you. In the Western philosophy, we've sort of taken this approach of, I'll just stick a plaster on it. I'll worry about that later. And that's such a bad thing to do for your mind and also your body. And I'm not too much of an expert in everything to do with the body, but I do know a lot about it in regards to if you if you put a plaster on your cut, it's not going to naturally heal nicely compared to if you let it have fresh oxygen and let it breathe and move with it and stuff like that.
And we're used to doing that, like you say, for many different things.
Everything.
These kind of band-aids or whatever, we will put them on.
Yeah.
Emotional scars as well as kind of physical ones, I guess. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's the mental health and the physical health in kind of tandem that we're interested in as, for a wholesome approach to people's health. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
So have you got any kind of personal experiences or stories that you can give that kind of relate to that? Maybe it's a situation that you patched up, at first with a band-aid and then realized that it didn't work. I guess kind of what led you to this point where you saw more of a kind of Eastern or non-Western medicine and treatment, and I guess kind of what have been your personal experiences, because again, it's very easy for people to say, well, he grew up in sport and exercise and whatever, but obviously no one's life is ever that simple.
No.
What are some of the things that you perhaps have been through that have taught you a lot about the body and the mind?
Yeah, well, I think some of the most recent things for me have been the most challenging, but also given me the most opportunity to learn. And I'll sort of start my learning process from where I am now and what made me want to get into it. It started about, I'd say about 4 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago, when I was competing in a kickboxing tournament, and it was at this point that my body literally gave up on me. So I started with a little pain in my ankle.
In the middle of the tournament?
In the middle of a fight, bearing in mind. Wow. Yeah, so I'm in the middle of a fight, and I am like, I need to stop. So the fight sort of comes to a natural stopping point, and I am sort of feeling my ankle, and I'm like, okay, something doesn't feel right. And then a pain comes up my leg, into my back, and into my thoracic spine, and suddenly I just seize up and just fall on the floor. I am like stiff. I cannot move. So I was basically emotionally paralyzed from the neck down. So they call the ambulance because, of course, in a kickboxing fight, it's a pretty bad thing if someone just stops moving who is genuinely an athletic kid. So get rushed to hospital straight away, and I could not move for a certain period of hours, and that was paralyzed from the neck down as well. So that was for me a huge moment looking back at it, saying, right, your body is clearly telling you something here. You can either choose to listen to it or you can continue doing what you were doing. So at that moment is when I really started to care about my body and what I was doing. And when I say caring about your body, it's not just warming up before going to play sports. It's just making sure you're not doing too much or doing too little. It's making sure you're moving your body in the right way. It's making sure what you're putting into your body is healthy. It's making sure that you're eating the correct food for your blood type. It's making sure that there are so many different variables. And I was at that point when I was like 16, I was like, okay, now is where I need to start caring for myself, purely because at that time I wanted to continue my martial arts career. So I was like, well, what can I do to make sure I'm the top of the top again? And that led me onto discovering yoga and movement and functional fitness. And throughout that journey, which then only took, I would say, about a year, came my next big challenge for me. So this time I was playing rugby. Again, I've sort of done various sports throughout my career. I was playing rugby and put in a big tackle, got up. I was a little bit dizzy on my feet, but I was okay. Got sent off to the sideline. My coach did a pitch side concussion test, and he was like, you're fine, you've passed your pitch side concussion test, but we just don't want to risk it, and we don't want to put you back on. This was an under 17s, I think, under 17s rugby match. It was like, just stay off. We've already like secured the game in the tournament. We don't really need you.
Okay.
Let's just keep you off on the side for the moment. So I did that, and as I returned home that night, my coach rang me and said, listen, we actually won the tournament, and it was great because I returned home a bit early. So they were like, we've won the tournament, it's great. Joe, one of your teammates, will pass you your medal on next training session. Thanks for your help today, you played really well. And at the moment, I was a bit like, okay, so who's Joe? And my coach was like, okay, that's fine, don't worry about it. This is normal signs of like concussion. Just hang up the phone, put yourself in a dark room for 24 hours, don't do anything. So very standard concussion procedures, because concussion is one of those things where your brain is like this, and imagine it's in a glass box. So with a thrashing around motion, all of a sudden your brain can very easily hit one of the sides of that glass box. So only because it hit it and came back to normal doesn't mean it's fixed straight away. It just means it might take a little bit of time for that injury to occur. So a lot of concussions can often take 6-12 hours to really show side effects. If it's a particularly bad concussion, it can be shown straight away. So that's sort of how that worked. And he was like, don't worry, it's a normal concussion. We're not worried about anything. Just go to sleep, chill out for a few days. Don't look at any bright lights, all this normal stuff. In the middle of the night, I woke up, and my partner at the time, so I woke up and I was a bit like, okay, so who are you? Why are you in my room? Please get out. And she was very confused, and she was like, I am your girlfriend. Why are you like shouting at me? It's the middle of the night, it's 3 a.m. I don't know what's going on. So she went to go get my dad, who I was living with, and he came into the room as a soldier, ex-soldier, and as a professional rugby player himself. He's seen many types of this sort of thing before, so he knew how to handle it in the correct approach. So he sat down with me and said, hey Sam, listen, you've had a concussion, you were playing rugby, things might be a bit fuzzy, or you might not know what's going on at the moment, but this is what's happening, and just explained everything to me. So that night, the next morning, I got taken to hospital, and they classed it as a concussion, post-concussion syndrome, and they were like, okay, we're just going to keep an eye on things. You've obviously having memory problems. Let's just take it one step at a time. So for most people who get a concussion or will have a serious head injury, for example, like a car crash, you would lose. You've got two types of memory. You've got your retrograde memory and you've got your anterograde memory. So your retrograde memory, if going off the top of my head, is your memory from your present, like your childhood to your present day. So all your childhood memories, and your anterograde memory is your ability to relay fresh memories. To lose one or the other, a very small percentage, I'm talking like 10-20%. Doctors sort of say it's 1 in every 10,000 people that would be in a car crash at 60 miles an hour. So it's a pretty unique thing to do. And over that time period, I had lost both types of memory, the retrograde and the anterograde, at 100%. So that was a huge thing, and doctors didn't really know what was going on. So they kept a close eye on me, and this sort of dragged out for about two and a half months in year one. So we'll get to that in just a moment. So that dragged out for about 2.5 months.
You've lost both your memories of your life so far and your ability to make any new memories at 100%.
Yes.
All overnight, basically.
Yeah, literally within a space of 24 to 36 hours, it was all gone.
Wow. So carry on, please. Tell us.
So
tell us how that was then.
So that was a sort of wild experience, and the only reason I can talk about it so confidently now is because that period of time where you have no memory at the end of it, all your memories start to regain. It takes about a week for everything to sit back in normally, but you can remember what it's like not having a memory. So I can still remember having all the tests done at the hospital, going down to London to have tests done. Even though I didn't have a memory at the time, it's all come back to me now. So it's almost like it's all there, but you just can't access those files.
So for those who don't know, well, obviously me and you have talked about it,
Yeah.
but for those who've never talked to you before or never even knew that this, because for me, before I talked to you for the first time, it was like the only thing I had to compare it to was the film 50 First Dates,
Yes.
which you talked about.
Yes.
Because it's like, you know, if anyone has seen it, it's Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler, isn't it? Like she wakes up every day, she doesn't know who he is, he makes her these videotapes, like he refreshes her memory every day. Well, she doesn't remember, but he tells her the life story. And that's such a unique thing that I can't imagine many people know anything about. So you're saying that after this bout or whatever, period of memory loss had ended, you were able to then, it's like you slowly would get those memories back from your past, and you were then able to make new memories on top of that, right?
Yeah, correct. So I would still, so this first period of what we call global amnesia lasted 2.5 months. So at the end of that 2.5 months of having absolutely no memory, as in waking up, not knowing your name, not knowing what you look like, not knowing if you have a family, nothing. So you'd wake up from that 2.5 months, and slowly you'd start to recognize things, or you'd be like, oh, I remember what I did yesterday. Okay, that's great. Oh, I remember that I have a mum.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So memories would slowly start to work their way back into your body. It would take about a week before you're sort of back to normal. But even when you get all those memories back, you're extremely tired because your body is just crammed in, for example, that 2.5 months of not knowing anything into the period of a week. So you're very tired.
So would you remember that there was a time that you couldn't remember?
Yes, yeah.
Right, okay. And then again, what would that, I guess over time, and I guess you'll talk about it shortly, what happened in coming years, but what did your average day look like? You know, obviously like life before now looks very different in this time. What did your average day kind of look like from both your point of view and your family having to kind of prepare for all of this?
Yeah, so sort of just to give context to the story, this is something that's happened on paper now for the last 4 or 5 years recurring. I can't actually remember, ironically. So yeah, 4 or 5 years recurring, that's actually what's happened. So we've really become good at it now and been able to adapt and said, right, every time we make a mistake, let's change it.
Yeah, I imagine now it's easier, but that first time would have been an absolute pain. Like.
That first time was probably the single darkest moment of my life personally. So it would be, I'm going to sort of try and explain it to you as best as I can and do it justice, even though I probably can't. So it would be a case of you waking up, not knowing that your name is Mark, not knowing that you have children or a partner, not knowing where you are when you've woken up, and you'd have to almost jigsaw things together. So I would wake up, I would have, my wall would be covered with sticky notes. I'm talking all over, of notes and things that I'd learned about myself and didn't want to forget, so I'd write them down. So I'd wake up normally about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. Spend a good 3 or 4 hours learning these sticky notes, checking my passports, checking my phone for notes, seeing what music I listen to, trying to learn as much about myself as I could generally learn. And then I would eventually have the confidence to sort of get outside of my room. But before you do, you'd say, all right, let me look around. Ah, I see I've got a TV over here. So that indicates to me that it's not my house. Because if you had a TV in your bedroom, if it was your house, sorry, why wouldn't you have it in your living room, right? You wouldn't need to. So it's almost like, right, I'm sharing this space with someone. Yeah, it's all these little clues. So it's not remembering anything, but you're jigsawing it together. So then you go downstairs and you hear someone else and you're a bit nervous and a bit worried. And then that voice says, oh, hi Sam, I'm your mum. You should have something on your phone about me. And you go, yeah. I remember reading that sticky note that was on that wall saying there was someone else in my house and it was your mother. So you go, oh, okay.
So you're able to. Sorry, just to cut in. So you're able to make a memory that lasts for that day.
Yes.
Until you fall asleep again.
Yes.
So at the point that you wake up, then what were your, I guess, as you're reading these post-it notes and as you're I'm just trying to get into the mind of it a little bit, because it'll be, for everybody listening, it will be such a alien experience. Is there at this point? How do you feel? Do you not trust yourself and not trust other people? Is it anxiety? Is it a mix of all of these things? Is it, what is going through your mind?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that is a good question. The way I would try and describe it to someone who doesn't know anything would be, it's almost all of those things and almost none of those things at the same time. You're almost like a child. It's almost like you're brand new to the world. You don't know anything, so you don't know whether to trust or not. You don't even know what the concept of trust is. You just know that your body does it. So I wouldn't be able to say, oh, I trust this because this is a good idea. I would just be like, oh, well, this feels right to me, so I'm going to do it.
Okay, wow. So it's almost like a naivety in a way,
Absolutely,
isn't it?
yeah. You can almost be taken advantage of.
You trust what's in front of you and you go along with it.
Yeah. So it was that first year. There was a lot of information about it on the internet and online, and it got quite popular because people just had not heard of this before. So my mum was very cautious in keeping my good friends who are really good friends in contact with me at some manageable stage and not letting too many other people contact me. It could be a case of if I was left on my own, which I never was, thankfully, but it could be a case of if I walked down a street and asked someone a question, someone would go, oh yeah, I'm your best friend and come with me, you'll be safe. And I'd be like, oh great, okay, that sounds amazing. I'm going to go with you because you said I'm your best friend. And they could have bad intentions for you. So it's almost a pure naivety that you just trust everything.
So that your family's having to step in and protect you, I guess, in some ways as well, where they need to, and just let you know, okay, this is a friend, this isn't a friend, this is the history or whatever, just so you're able to kind of make some level of decision. And I guess not having those past experiences to fall back on or to kind of relate to makes it quite difficult to make decisions going forwards because, well, one, because you don't remember what that person is to you or what that situation means to you. And two, because you can't plan for the future necessarily because tomorrow you're going to wake up and have to do that again.
Yeah, as far as planning for the future goes, you're not even thinking about the future. You're not even thinking about the same night. Right. You don't even think about that because you're aware that you're going to start again. So this is where, for the first year, I got very depressed and it was a very dark place for me, was because I would learn all these amazing things throughout the day. So if I made a great friendship with my mum or my brother, I would be so ecstatic and happy that I've learned so many cool things about you. And as the day would go on, I'm really becoming close with you. And as the day gets to evening, I'm going to lose everything and forget all about you. So it would quickly transition to being really, really happy to being very dark because you know that when you go to sleep, you're going to lose everything. And you didn't know that at some point it would all come back to you.
I guess whilst you adapt as best you can, it's really your family that has to kind of learn to create new boundaries, new rules, new reminders to figure out how to explain to you every day who you are and who they are and the world around you as best you can. How was that? What did they learn from that, and what did you learn from that as your memory came back that you then took into consequential years?
I think it was for me, it was a state of bliss because when you're in amnesia, so because you don't know anything, you don't know to be upset. Because you don't know who your mum is, you don't know that you should be upset because you can't remember things about her. So in the moment, it's almost a state of bliss because you just don't know anything. However, for your family, it's an extremely challenging time because I'm going to use it. I'm sorry to target you, but I'm going to use you as an example here. That if your kid looked up to you and there was no emotion, no anything, they just didn't know your name, didn't know that they were, that you've looked after them the whole life, didn't know that you played Lego this morning, there was nothing. It would break your heart. It would really, really break your heart. So there's a whole thing about that really. And from the family point of view, it's very difficult to manage.
So to pick up then, so tell me a little bit about what it was like in those consequential years. So obviously you had the first year, 2.5 months, you said, where you just went from memory to basically no memory.
Yeah.
And I guess the difficult thing was whilst you were kind of blissfully unaware day to day, it was quite difficult for your family to kind of prepare for something like that. So I guess they learned a lot in the following years. And tell me a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the coming years.
So to talk sort of like can't speak now. Fast forward a little bit. It was really, the first year was huge because that's where we learnt everything, and the second year was probably bigger than the first year because we understood what it was. So in the second year, so after that 2.5 months, I got my memory back for 10 months. All was fine. We thought it would never happen again. And then,
okay, like a one-off.
Yeah, we thought it was going to be a one-off, and then bam, happened again. This year, in the second year, it lasted 5.5 months, which is a huge amount of time. If you think about that, that's almost half a year. So half a year waking up knowing nothing. But by this point, we were starting to really learn and understand a little bit about how to manage my behavior and what I could do and what was the best way to wake me up in the mornings and do this and do that. So by year 3, which again happened again within the same month every single year, which is the weird part, we were sort of almost becoming experts at global amnesia. You know, my mum is an incredibly talented and intellectual woman, and she was learning so much about the brain and telling me this and learning this and understanding that, and I was like, okay, you know probably more than some doctors do because you're studying this in such depth. You know, this was my life for over the last 5 years. It's been my life for a year of it, which is crazy.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about then again, you know, what things you discovered in terms of practical things. How would you wake up? How would you go about your day? What did you learn from that first year?
We learned from that first year that you've just got to kind of go with the flow. And as stupid as that sounds, that's all you can do. You can't be annoyed and you can't be angry or hating the world because of this happened. Like, I think that I had a pretty rough last 4 years of my life. However, there are people who have had way worse lives than me. So I really tried to look at it with the mentality of just try and brush yourself off, try and, dust your shoulders off. You're going to be okay. We know it comes to an end. So as I sort of got older and wiser and it happened more to the point where I am now, I see it as like, oh, cool, I'm off on a holiday. I'll see everyone in like 2.5 weeks, whatever it is. Peace out. So that's sort of my mentality with it now, is it's grown into this just
It's a great way to look at it. Like, obviously lots of people wouldn't.
Yeah, lots of people really wouldn't be able to look at it in that way. And I think I'm quite lucky and blessed in the regard that I can look at it in that way and say, I'm now treating it as like a holiday period where you won't hear from me in 2 weeks or however long it is, or a month. And I'm just going to stay in myself, and my family are going to do the same thing as we've always done every single year because we're so used to this, to the point where we know it's not scary anymore. We don't need to be afraid of this thing anymore. We understand what it is. It's just a pause in time. So I think because I'm actually going to relate it to what we're going through as the world right now, which is the coronavirus, and saying, even though it's slightly different, it's just a pause in life. So that's how we sort of treated it. You don't need to be as worried as you were when you first went into it because you're used to it now a little bit more. So that's sort of how my family and I were approaching this method. But it taught me so many things about myself, and it also taught me so many things about other people and the mind and how we should work, and which is why I'm so passionate about what I do now, which is helping people through soul movement, body movement, and mind movement, those three link together immensely well.
Incredible. And what sort of year was it that you, I guess, kind of realized that this wasn't a one-off thing? Like, was it in the second year where you went, oh God, this thing's come back again? Maybe it's gonna, because it comes back around the same sort of time each year, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's within the space of a month.
Right. Okay. So did there come a point where you go, oh, okay, we think this thing is going to be, and again, talk us through the process of what it was like as you kind of went for tests and studies and things like that. Did you meet up with anybody else who had something similar to what you'd had, or, what was that like? Because again, it can be quite a lonely experience unless you know someone or can speak to an expert about it who can help you understand it.
Yeah, we from the years of tests and things, we have never had someone who I would class as an expert in the global amnesia that I had. I am not saying there are people who don't understand modern medicine. I am not saying neurologists aren't incredible at their job. They absolutely are, and they did everything that they knew how to do. However, they were still unsure and still are unsure, which is why they've sort of dropped the case looking at 4 years on. they were unsure about what it was, why I've got it, how to stop it. So they came to a natural closing point of saying, we don't really know. We're going to label it as what's called a psychogenic fugue, which is a term for global amnesia. Like, we're just going to label it as this and sort of let it come to a natural close. Like, your family know what it is. They know how to deal with it. You're happy. Everyone's sort of happy. Let's just leave it here. And for me, there will always be a little bit of, yeah, but why have you stopped looking? Why have you stopped searching?
Because it's kind of like if you're a neurologist or someone who studies and is into the brain and whatever, like, to me, like, your case would seem like not to belittle it, but like a dream case, right?
Yeah, almost like a guinea pig. Like, this has never really happened before. There have been cases of people having retrograde and anterograde memory losses through no sudden cause for a week or for 2 weeks. But never, I don't think, to my knowledge, has there been someone who's had it repeatedly at the same time every year from no triggers, whether it be physical or emotional, for the period of up to 5.5 months in 1 year. I've never heard of someone have that. So for me, I would be like, well, why are you giving it up? Like, if I was a doctor, I'd love to figure this out, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting. So I guess, like, linking it back now to what we started talking about all the way back at the beginning, which was mind, body, fitness, functional fitness, I guess, and what we've just been talking about in terms of, I guess, what was more a mental kind of affliction.
Yeah.
How have you found both during and after those times of memory loss? Like, how have you found your fitness and also the way that fitness builds you up mentally? Because I guess fitness and exercise is a kind of stress, isn't it, really, that you put on your body. And like Wim Hof does when he encourages people to kind of take cold showers, and it's kind of a form of stress induction that kind of helps you deal with the other things in life. So I guess in some form, the exercise and the fitness that you've done throughout your life maybe played a part in helping you deal with the memory thing. Not necessarily making it any better, not helping you get your memory back, but helping you kind of deal with it, looking at it on a positive way.
Yes, I think that without the struggles that I'd been through, which is where we go back to that original point of people saying being fit's easy for you, or being, you've always been born into sports. Yeah, but there have been loads of times that I could have just stopped being healthy. There have been hundreds of times that I thought, there have been times that I didn't even want to be on this planet, let alone be healthy. So with those struggles, how am I meant to stay fit and motivated and healthy and strong and active and athletic? You just find a way to do it through repetitions. And I always like the term of, like, the definition of insanity is repetition, doing something over and over again. But I think that's actually, like, if you look at it in terms of fitness and health, yeah, you don't want to be going to the gym and lifting the same weight and doing the same thing for years on end. But if that makes you happy, go at it. Like, you've got to find what makes you happy at the end of the day, which is where I sort of like to close all of the talking that I've done, like, that we've covered with today. It's like, I won't do anything that doesn't purely fill me with joy. It's as simple as that. If I want to go and play competitive sports again for a year, I will. If I want to go and rock climb the highest mountain in the world, I will, because I am joyful and it gives me life. Don't do something that you don't want to do. Don't do something that
I think that's a really important point, like, for everybody, and that personally really encourages me, because even as you've been talking, it's made me think about my own, I call it like a fitness journey, but it has been a journey, but it's, not been very consistent. But the times I most loved it is when I've been out on my bike, rock climbing, whatever it is, bits of running that I've done, when I've been out there doing something that I don't even feel like is exercise. And I really do believe, and I hope you do too, that there is something for everybody. Hugely. There are those people, aren't there, that they want to go. They actually really love the social element of the gym.
Yeah.
They love the repetition of it. 6 o'clock every morning, I go down, I do my hour, an hour and a half, and then I grab a shower and then go to work. And that works really well for some people. And then there are those who are like, you know what, I work nights, or I don't know what my life's going to look like day to day.
Yep.
Lots of things going on, troubles. I've lost my memory. I've lost my wife. I'm going through all kinds of difficulties, or I don't have the money to pay for the gym, or whatever. I want to find something that kind of keeps me healthy. Right, great, football, a couple of times a week with your friends down the local park, go for a 10-minute run, I always think running's a great one because it's so cheap to do. You literally get the trainers on your feet and you go. You know, I think that's a great thing to be able. But I think everybody can find something that encourages them to be fitter. And I think what you said about just find something you enjoy that you love to do, and don't think about it too much as a workout program necessarily.
I like to sort of, when I talk to people about fitness and health, and break it down into a really simple vehicle, or really simple, way of looking at it, is find something you absolutely love doing and experiment with everything until you find that thing. Or even if it's you love everything, go and do everything. And secondly is don't put pressure on yourself. So during this weird time of lockdown that we're all in, so my phone's just saying it's on 25% battery. Cool, we are still recording, so I'm just changing this. Okay, so one of the things I really like to say to people is, find the things you really enjoy doing, no matter what that is. If you enjoy doing everything, go and do everything. If you enjoy doing one thing, go and spend your time doing that. And then don't put pressure on yourself. Those two are the two huge things that I would say to people. So during this weird time of lockdown that we're in, I've probably stepped away from the high level of sports that I was doing, but my body is thanking me for it. So before it would have been a case of, I go to the gym twice a day, I play American football 3 times a week, and I do yoga for an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. And that's a huge amount of physical exercise. And now it may be a case of I'm only doing yoga or functional movements, including my workouts, for 45 minutes to an hour. And for some people, they'd be like, oh yeah, but that's being lazy, or you've dropped down from what you're doing. Do you not feel guilty? And no, I feel great because I'm just giving myself the time to rest. So don't put pressure on yourself. If you missed a gym one day because you're ill, or if you missed a gym because you just don't want to go, that's fine. If you are prepping for a bodybuilding show, yeah, you have to train every day. Your diet has to be really cut and lean. But if you're just generally being healthy, which is what I sort of like to teach people, rather than getting into the best shape of your life, is just general health within your mind and your body, be forgiving to yourself.
Because I think that's most people's experience, right? Like they aren't prepping for bodybuilding shows, they just want to, I guess, elongate the time that they can have with their kids in a heightened state of physical fitness.
Sure.
Improve their mental health. And again, lots of people, everybody's going through stress, through difficult patches of mental health, or just suffer with it every day, and need something to kind of take the strain off. And I think that's where kind of a lot of people want to be. They just want to be just generally be more healthy in body and mind. And I think, again, a little something, little and often, is better than nothing at all, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Like, just enjoy what you do. That's the only way I can really describe it to people, is enjoy what you do, create longevity in your life. Longevity is something I find valuable. Like, to be able to spend a longer period of time with your family, whether it be your kids or your partner or your mum or your dad, to spend more time with them, doing active things, keeping your body and your mind healthy, is the way that's what a richness in life is to me.
So just lastly, when people want to find you, perhaps they're looking for more inspiration on fitness, or perhaps some help with their own exercise regimes, or help mentally, how their physical health can be improved as well. Where can they find you? How can they contact you?
Yep, absolutely. So the best way to contact me would be through my Instagram page. I run an Instagram page called Move with Sam. So it's spelled MOUVE with Sam. And then that's just my business personnel, really. My company name is Move, and that's the best way to approach me. If you have any questions about mentality or fitness or anything, that's always a great place. And then also, if people are interested in solely doing yoga or meditation classes, Hotpod Yoga York specifically on Instagram would be another great place to probably find the work that I've done as well.
Great, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Absolutely,
and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, take care.
You too. Bye-bye.